Okay, good morning, and thank you all for being here for a presentation of Bushveld Minerals, an emerging integrated vanadium producer. Let's dispense with the legalities. As a company, we are a vanadium-focused company. In the diagram there you can see essentially where our focus lies. We have a tin asset which we listed in November last year, and we also have a Madagascar coal asset which we're developing as an integrated thermal coal and power plant project, developing as a 60 megawatt power project in partnership with Sino Hydro from China. Lima Resources will likely follow the path we did with Afritin, which is to spin it off as a standalone vehicle, which is focused on Madagascar, to allow us as a company to focus on what really is the exciting part of our story, which is vanadium. According to Bloomberg, the best performing battery metal in 2017 wasn't cobalt, it was vanadium, with an increase of about 130% last year alone. What that story doesn't tell you is that in 2016, vanadium prices also rose by more than 100%. So it's a commodity that has been performing really well. Driving that growth in the price, it's not hype, but we see that growth is steeped in fundamentals. And those fundamentals are as follows. The demand for vanadium is anchored in the steel sector, which accounts for about 90% of consumption of vanadium. Within that sector, consumption of vanadium is growing and continues to underwrite demand. The upside in the energy storage, which the market is beginning to catch on to now, is significant and exciting. Meanwhile, supply is very constrained, continues to be constrained in the foreseeable future, leading to a sustained structural deficit, which is responsible for the kind of price run that we've seen. We're talking about prices today of about $60 per kgV, and this is off lows of as little as $13.50 per kilogram vanadium as recent as November 2015. The demand, as I said, is anchored in the steel sector, where it's used as a strengthening alloy, and China is the largest market there. The significant thing to mention there is that the newly introduced vanadium rebar standard is expected to see a significant growth in the vanadium consumption in the steel sector, as much as 30% in 2018. That's just how much additional vanadium is required just to meet these standards. So the steel industry provides a really solid, robust anchor for vanadium demand. Energy applications in the energy storage space provide really exciting upside. 3 years ago, vanadium consumption in energy storage market accounted for less than 1% of total vanadium consumption. By last year, we've seen that number go up to more than 5%, and projections are that vanadium will account for as much as 20% of vanadium consumption by 2030. And there's a reason behind that. And it is primarily the growing adoption of vanadium redox flow batteries in utilities scale applications globally. There is this misnomer sometimes people have that vanadium redox flow batteries are primarily required in the integration of renewable energy only. But even if you don't take that into account, utilities increasingly recognize that energy storage is an important part of their energy mix, and vanadium redox flow batteries have a huge role to play. They stand head and shoulders above many other battery technologies on account of their scalability, on account of their long lives, and on account of their safety as well. In the meantime, so while the demand picture is as solid as it is, supply is seriously constrained. And if you look at the nature of vanadium supply, it's concentrated primarily between three countries: China, Russia, and South Africa. South Africa is well positioned in terms of primary production on account of the sheer size and grades of the deposits that you find, as I will explain. But what I want to highlight in this slide is that the biggest contributors of vanadium production in the world, which are in China, these are steel producers who are largely constrained in their economics because their deposits are low grade. Their processing costs are very, very high because they are processing not only low grade, but they have to deal with extraction of titanium, they have to deal with extraction of vanadium. And they're a small part of the global steel production, so they don't really have any influence on steel production, steel prices. They're a price taker, so they hit on both sides, largely unprofitable, and what we're seeing them do increasingly is blend their feedstock with hematite, non-vanadium containing ores to just try and drive their costs down. The result of that is reduction in supply out of China. And we think that that is probably one of the biggest drivers of the vanadium price performance. It's also a factor that falls very squarely into our lap as primary producers because our economics are driven primarily by vanadium, not by steel market. And this is where Bushveld comes in. Growing a large, low-cost and vertically integrated vanadium platform. 5 key characteristics about our asset base. Large, world-class open-cast deposits, combining about 440 million tons of resources across 3 deposits, of which 55 million tons are reserves. We have got very high in vanadium in magnetite grades, some of the highest in the world at about 2%, V2O5. What is also significant is that we're located on the Bushveld complex, which is home to the largest primary, high-grade primary vanadium resources in the world. What distinguishes us, though, in addition to all of the factors I've mentioned, is that uniquely in South Africa, we have access to brownfield processing infrastructure, which allows us to get into production much quicker and at even lower cost than it would on a greenfield basis. 3 key assets we've got: the Vametco vanadium mine, which we completed acquiring last year, which is located in Brits and is currently producing about 3.5% of the global vanadium market. Brits Vanadium project is an extension of that mine, which gives us almost double the strike length that we have at Vametco, as I'll show you just in a moment. And the Mokopane Vanadium project, where we completed a pre-feasibility study in 2016, and we are awaiting finalization of the mining right. We expect sometime during the first half of this year. Vametco, overview. As I said, currently producing production capacity of about 3,000 MTV per annum, which is about 3.5% of the global vanadium supply. We're expanding that fairly aggressively to 5,000 metric tons of vanadium by 2019. The second phase of that expansion we expect to complete by June of this year, which will see us with a production capacity of about 3,750, call it more than 4% of global vanadium supply. In terms of sheer numbers, Vametco is a good producer. It's one of the lowest cost producers of vanadium, and very well positioned in this market. I've put some numbers there that just give you a sense of its cash generation capacity. In 2017, generated about 315 million rand of EBITDA, production costs of about $16.60, with realized vanadium prices of about $33 per kgV. That's about $16 margin in 2017. In 2018, we expect to produce about 3,680 metric tons of vanadium. At current prices and at current cost profile of the mine, this is a mine which is capable of generating as much as $150 million in EBITDA. And for an asset which we acquired last year for a mere $16.5 million, it's a real coup. We talk about a vertically integrated platform because for us it's not just producing vanadium, but it is not only processing it into final product that you sell into the steel market. In the energy market specifically, we've gone further downstream, established Bushveld Energy, whose sole mandate is to drive the adoption of vanadium redox flow batteries in the global market. And we do that through partnerships. We've partnered with Uni Energy Technologies, which is one of the world leaders in large-scale energy storage systems. We've also partnered with Industrial Development Corporation, which is particularly keen on developing the energy storage industry in South Africa. We're working together right now to build electrolyte production capacity as soon as 2019. We believe that with the quality of deposits, with the size of deposits, and with the low production cost base that we have, we are uniquely positioned to help unlock the opportunity of vanadium redox flow batteries in the global energy storage market. Our growth strategy is predicated on 3 key elements. One is organically to grow our production base at Vametco, as I indicated, to about 5,000 MTV by 2019. Secondly, we continue to look at brownfield opportunities to take our production levels even beyond that, while simultaneously lowering our production cost base with a flexible production architecture that allows us to ramp up or ramp down our production profile without compromising our cost position. In terms of vertical integration, we'll continue the development of our energy storage business with our partners. And this slide just gives you a quick overview of our company, our performance over the last few years, and that jump in our share price, which has seen us outperform the market, has largely been, we believe, on the back of a consistent delivery on our Vanadium strategy, and most notably the successful acquisition of Vametco last year. We've got a solid management team, which includes in-depth experience within the Vanadium industry. Our team has been involved with just about every Vanadium operation there has been in South Africa in the past, and also with significant energy expertise. So that is Bushveld.